You are sitting in a room that is finally completely quiet. Everyone has gone. The noise of the day has stopped. And something in you exhales so deeply it frightens you, because you realize this is the first time today that you have felt like yourself, not relaxed, yourself. And you understand in that exhale that you have been performing existence for hours. That solitude is not where you go to recover, it is where you actually live. There is a name for this. Welcome to power and myth. You know the choreography. You have always known it. You move through the world with enough fluency that most people cannot see what it costs you. You attend the gathering. You hold the conversation. You read the room with that uncanny precision that is simply how your mind works, tracking undercurrents, sensing what is unspoken, feeling the emotional weather of every person present as though it were your own atmosphere. You do all of this well, in some cases extraordinarily well. And then you get home, and you close the door, and something that has been held very tightly for a very long time lets go. This is not introversion as the world understands it. The world understands introversion as shyness, or social anxiety, or a preference for smaller gatherings. What you experience is something structurally different. When you are in company, you are not simply present. You are continuously processing at depth. You are reading the emotional subtext beneath every exchange. You are tracking the gap between what is being said and what is actually meant. You are feeling in your own body the tension that the person across from you has not yet named. You are doing this without choosing to. You are doing this the way your lungs choose to breathe. It is not an effort, it is architecture. By the time you leave, you are not merely tired. You are emptied. The inner world, that vast, intricate, perpetually moving landscape that is the actual terrain of your existence, has been almost entirely inaccessible during the hours you were present for other people. You were there. You gave what you gave, and often it was considerable. But you were not home. And when you finally close the door and sit in the quiet, the return to yourself is not a recovery. It is a homecoming. This is the hermit. And it is worth understanding what that archetype actually means before you make the mistake of pathologizing what it asks of you. The hermit is not the one who cannot connect. That is the exile's wound, which belongs to a different archetype entirely, one built from rejection rather than from calling. The hermit is the one who has been given, or perhaps burdened with, a particular kind of knowing that can only be accessed in silence. In the tarot, the hermit stands on a mountain with a lantern. The lantern is not lit for the hermit already knows where they are going. The lantern is lit for the people watching from below, the ones who cannot yet climb but can see, by the hermit's light, that ascent is possible. The hermit's solitude is not selfishness, it is the condition under which the light can be prepared. Jung understood this, not as a personality preference, but as a structural necessity of a particular type of consciousness. What Jungian psychology identifies as dominant introverted intuition, the nigh-dominant function that governs your cognitive processing, is a function that operates largely below conscious awareness. It synthesizes, it perceives patterns across time, across systems, across human behavior, drawing from a depth of unconscious data processing that is measurably different from how other cognitive types experience knowing. These are not supernatural claims. They are descriptions of a measurable psychological process. And what matters here is that this process requires inward orientation to function at depth. When you are perpetually turned outward, managing the social surface and tracking the emotional weather of others, the introverted intuition is not offline. But it cannot speak above the noise. It is sending signals. You cannot hear them. This is why solitude is not a preference. It is maintenance. The inner world you return to when the door closes is not a sanctuary from the real world, it is the real world, the place where perception completes itself, where the fragmented images and half-formed knowings of the day coalesce into understanding, where you remember, with some relief, who you are beneath the performance of presence. And here is where the shadow lives, because the hermit's gift and the hermit's wound are the same thing, as they always are in Jungian psychology. The very depth of your inner orientation means that the outer world will never quite fit. You will always be more yourself alone than you are in company. You will always know the homecoming of solitude more viscerally than the warmth of belonging. And if you are not careful, if you allow the wound to drive rather than the gift, the hermit's calling becomes the hermit's hiding. There is a sacred version of this solitude. It is the silence in which you hear yourself clearly, in which the introverted intuition operates at full depth, in which you move through your inner landscape with the freedom that company simply does not allow. This version of solitude makes you more of what you are. It returns you to the people in your life more present, more perceptive, more genuinely capable of the depth of connection that you actually want and that they actually need from you. There is another version, one that uses the real cost of social engagement as justification for a withdrawal that has stopped being restorative and begun being protective, not from exhaustion, from the accumulated disappointment of a particular kind of loneliness, the loneliness of being deeply known by almost no one, despite being deeply perceptive about almost everyone. This solitude is not the hermit's mountain. It is the hermit's cave with the entrance sealed, and the light does not reach anyone from there. The distinction is felt rather than easily described. Sacred solitude leaves you wanting, eventually, to return, to bring back what you found in the quiet, to give the lantern light to someone who needs to see. The other kind loops. It feeds on itself. Each retreat makes re-entry feel more costly, and so the retreat deepens, and so the cost increases, and you find yourself forgetting that the mountain exists, that the view was once worth the climb. Shadow integration in the hermit's case is not learning to prefer company. It is learning to trust that the going out will not destroy what the going in builds, that you can return from the noise and the performance and the exhausting work of existing in other people's atmospheres, and the inner world will be there. That solitude is not something you can run out of, that the door can be closed and opened, that closing it tonight does not mean opening it tomorrow will be more dangerous. Go back to the moment the door's shut, the exhale, the room going quiet, the return to yourself. You were not running from anything, you were running towards something, the something that you are when no one is watching, when no one needs to be tracked or read or held or witnessed. The vast interior country that is honestly the most real place you have ever been. The hermit does not apologize for the mountain. The hermit does not explain the lantern to people who cannot yet see why it is lit. The hermit tends the light, and the light, eventually, is what makes the world below a little less dark. You were built for this, not because you cannot manage the noise, though the noise is real and its cost is real, because without the silence you cannot hear what you are here to know, and without knowing it you cannot bring it back. And what you bring back, in ways you will often never see and never be told, matters to people who do not yet have language for why. Any part of this video felt like your experience being witnessed rather than described, please tell me in the comments. What does your solitude actually feel like when it is sacred rather than hiding? I read everything. Subscribe to Power and Myth if you want to keep exploring the ancient patterns that explain who you are. You are not alone in this, even in the silence. Until next time, find your power, know your myth.